قتلت ظلما بلا حق ولا جدل، أنت الذي منك الحياة تعلمت كيف الخلود فلن تمحى يا من في الورى أشلاء الفرات، وعلى الرمال أصابت صروح الطويب الشلالي، ظنت أمية ظنت الطغاة بقتلكم نوركم، حاجبوا فالشمس تشرق روم الحلك واليالي. ملوك النحل لا تبقى محلقة، فبموتها شهدا تعطي أطيب العسل. يا صاح شوف البشر بس من لذي المايلة وتميل حيث الرضي حتى الوقت مايلة، والزين وحشة برفق أهل مايلة. ربي رحيم ترى ما ينسبك عابدا ولو كان دربك وعر بعطر الوردة بدماء مثل سيد الشباب الرب إلى عابد ويموت نحر وعطش ما حد مطمايل. يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين.
And became caliph. He was known to be an abusive person who lived by nepotism, sexual and alcohol excesses, and who completely abandoned the needs of his people. Once in power, he soon became known as a cruel killer who would eliminate anybody who stood in his way. Greed and power threatened to corrupt Islam. Throughout the empire, people feared this tyrant, and so they yielded their rights and authority to this man. Hussein, the grandson of the prophets, and therefore now the righteous leader of Islam, refused to pay allegiance to Yazid's demands and said he would never yield to the devil in place of God. In anger, Yazid had planned to assassinate the Imam. But the Imam of Islam resisted yielding to corruption and tyranny. A battle ensued. He fought until death.
God says he the end of miscreants will be awful. Oh, Yazid, do you feel that you have made our lives miserable and existence impossible?
Do you feel that you've conquered the whole world? That all your affairs are organized and that our domain is now under your control?
Wait. Let not your ignorance make you so elated. For you have not heard God's words. Oh, you, the son of freed slaves! Is this your justice? That the ladies of your house remain veiled, and we, the prophet's daughters, should be paraded from place to place? You have insulted our dignity. Your misdeed has proved your rebellion against God. Oh, yes. You are happily disrespecting the death of Hussein, even though it was the place of kissing for the Holy Prophet.
ليت أشياخي ببدر شهدوا جزع الخزرج من وقع الأسد لأهلوا واستهلوا فرحا ثم قالوا يا يزيد لا تشك قد قتلنا القرم من سلامهم وعدناه ببدر فاعتدل لست من خندق إن لم أنتقم من بني أحمد ما كان فأر لعبت هاشم بالملك فلا خبر جاء ولا وحي نزل.
The whole empire was going through terrible times. Yazid favored those worthless people who flattered him, and he installed them as governors and as leaders in the mosques. The chastity of women was no longer safe. With our dignity at the mercy of Yazid's brutal soldiers, if a man of the government desired a woman, well then deceitful measures were taken to force that woman to divorce her husband so that she could be made available to these shameless men. My father, Imam Hussein, did not want the caliphate, and he refused to pledge allegiance to Yazid. This meant his life was now in terrible danger, and so were those of many innocent Muslims in his city. People began writing to him, coming to him, begging him to do something about this awful situation. The Imam left Medina to go to Mecca on pilgrimage, but once there, these calls for help continued to come. Most of these desperate calls came from the city of Kufa. But he couldn't blindly accept responsibility because the people of Kufa were well known for their unstable and fickle character. Therefore, he sent his cousin Muslim to the city of Kufa, saying,
اذهب إلى أهل الكوفة وانظر إذا كان قد اجتمع رأي الملأ من الحجة والفضل منهم
asking Hussein to go to Kufa and begin the revolution. However, Yazid got news about Muslim's task, ordered the governor of Kufa to capture Muslim and kill him. Following these orders, a warning was sent to all the Kufans, in which it was announced that whoever helped Hussein's messenger would be severely punished. Muslim was already in dreadful trouble. He now had to fight for his life. He desperately tried to send a warning to Imam Hussein to avoid Kufa at all costs, but he was not successful. He was betrayed and surrounded by soldiers who attacked him. He was beaten, chained up, and brought to the governor. The governor then ordered Muslim to be decapitated. As the sword of the executioner fell on his neck, Muslim spoke his last prayer.
Oh, holy Imam, pardon me for what's missing. Oh, Allah, let him know what has happened here and not come to Kufa.
Imam Hussein. Qais addressed the people by first praising Allah and then said,
People, Hussein is the best of men living at present. He is the son of Fatima, the daughter of your prophet. He has sent me. All of you should rise and assist him.
He then cursed the governor, who ordered Qais to be thrown down from a high roof. Qais was martyred. His broken body was left on the ground where it fell. Imam Hussein, meanwhile, continued his journey towards Kufa until he learned about the martyrdom of Muslim, in which he said,
إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون اللهم ارحم مسلما.
Later, he received the news about Qais. And when the caravan stopped for a rest, he informed us of the deaths of Muslim and of Qais, and of the state of affairs in Kufa. Thereafter, he said,
أيها الناس لقد خذلنا أنصارنا وتفرقوا عنا، ومن شاء منكم أن يرحل فليفعل ذلك. وقيساه
This time many men left. Very few remained, but few that did remain were his true friends. They had not come with him for material gain.
In response to the news of Imam Hussein's approach, several military parties were sent out to search the desert and stop his advance. One such party, led by a famous commander, who met the caravan of Imam Hussein on the 12th of October, 680.
Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام.
When we met, whose army was exhausted and desperately thirsty. Imam Hussein then ordered that water from our stores should be provided to horsemen and horses. It was time to pray. Imam Hussein led the prayers, and horse army prayed behind him.
Allahu Akbar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allah. Allah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
After the prayers were over, Imam Hussein addressed Hur and his companions. He reminded them that he was only there in response to their written invitations. He warned them of the consequences of obeying a man like Yazid, and urged them to refrain from staining their hands with the blood of the family of the Holy Prophet. Hur urged Imam Hussein to surrender, but my brother refused to give up. Hur didn't fight the Imam, but he diverted his path away from Kufa and led him into the desert. The next day, the caravan of Imam Hussein reached the place where the horse of the Imam stopped. Although he changed horses several times, the animals would not carry him further. Gathering the people that lived in the area, Imam Hussein asked the name of the place. One said that it was called
Nineveh. Another said it was called
Ma'iya.
And then an old man came by and he said this place was called
Karbala.
When the Imam heard this, he smiled and thanked Allah. And then he said,
لا شك في أن هذه هي الأرض التي تنبأ جدي لي ولأصحابي أن نذبح عليها. بعد بعد أن نعاني ل3 أيام من الجوع والعطش لن نتحرك من هنا. هذه هي غايتنا.
Imam Hussein then ordered our caravan to stop and set up the tents near the Euphrates. The people living in the area were from the tribe of Bani Asad. Knowing his destiny, Imam Hussein asked the tribe to dignify their dead bodies after their martyrdom.
He first addressed the men.
في 10 من المحرم سوف ترون جثثنا ملقاة على هذا السحب بعد أن تقطع رؤوسنا وتؤخذ بعيدا. أرجو أن تدفنونا، وبعد أن تنتهي الواقعة سيأتي المتعبدون لزيارة مقابرنا. أكرموا زوارنا وعاملوهم بلطف ودلوهم على قبورنا.
He then turned to the women of the tribe and said,
يا أيتها السيدات الفاضلات، إذا منع خوف يزيد أزواجكن من دفننا فشجعوهم على فعل ذلك، فإن لم يفعلوا لفعلن ذلك أنتن بأنفسكن.
Finally, he addressed the children. And he said,
يا أيتها النفوس البريئة، إذا منع الخوف من الحاكم آباءكم وأمهاتكم من دفننا فافعلوا ذلك أنتم عن طريق النعم. احملوا التراب وأهلوه على أشلائنا بدفنها.
these words of Imam Hussein made all his listeners weep.
when the governor of Kufa learned that Hur had led Imam Hussein and his companions to Karbala, he sent his troops to surround us. The first man to arrive in Karbala was the commander-in-chief of all the forces, Umar bin Saad. He brought with him several thousand men. This large army was determined to massacre Imam Hussein and his companions for the sake of the rewards that Yazid had promised them. Many of them were the same people of Kufa who had invited Imam Hussein to come there in the first place. The first act of the enemy was to surround Imam Hussein and his army and force us to move our camp away from the Euphrates. Imam Hussein then ordered our camp to be moved further into the interior of the desert and be located close to 3 hills that covered the rear. He was preparing for battle. In the days that followed, there were several meetings between Imam Hussein and Ibn Saad. The latter kept on insisting that the only way to stop the war was for Imam Hussein to give the oath of allegiance to Yazid. He said that once the allegiance was given, all worldly comforts would be at the disposal of the Imam. However, my brother stood firm on his stand and replied,
I shall never yield to the one who defies Allah, both by words and actions. I am willing to face any calamity, but shall never surrender the truth
to falsehood.
On the 18th of October, 680, Bin Saad received orders to block all sources supplying water to Imam Hussein. From that day onwards, not a single drop of water was allowed to reach the camp of the Imam.
Not even for the children.
The brave group of Imam Hussein suffered these tortures with patience as we watched the enormous army that faced us prepare to attack. After 2 days, Imam Hussein gathered his friends and companions. And spoke to us.
أما بعد فإني لا أعلم أصحابا أولى ولا خيرا من أصحابي ولا أهل بيت أبر ولا أوصل من أهل بيتي فجزاكم الله عني خيرا ألا وإني أظن يومنا من هؤلاء الأعداء غدا ألا وإني قد رأيت لكم فانطلقوا في حل ليس عليكم مني ذمان هذا الليل قد غشيكم فاتخذوه جملا وليأخذ كل رجل بيد رجل من أهل بيتي ثم تفرقوا في سوادكم ومدائنكم حتى يفرج الله فإن القوم إنما يطلبونني ولو قد ظفروا بي نهوا عن طلب غيري.
Imam Hussein blew out the candle. There was total darkness. Anyone could have escaped without being seen. After a while, Imam Hussein relit the candle. No one had run away.
AD 89 was the day of history. army of Yazid fought the men of Imam Hussein.
On this day, the household of the Holy Prophet was killed alongside the faithful companions of Imam.
After morning, the Imam's followers took turns to come forward to address Yazid's army. Many had relatives and friends in the enemy camp, and they tried to convince them of the terrible crime they were about to commit. One of them
O people of Kufa, I warn you about God's punishment. I warn you because it is my duty to advise you as a brother. Until now we're brothers and there is no sword between us. Therefore, you still deserve my advice. If the sword comes between us, this relationship will be cut. And you will become a nation. And we will become a nation.
Imam Hussein came forward and addressed the enemy himself.
ألستبن بنت نبيكم وملاذكم إن صرف لأهل النابة. هل جئت في دين النبي ببدعة أم كنت في أحكامه مرتابا أم لم يوص بنا النبي وأودعا نقلني فيكم عكرة وكتابا. إن لم تدينوا بالمعاد فراجعوا أحسابكم إن كنتم أعرابا.
Then a captain of Ibn Sa'd's army named Shamr said to Hussein,
I worship Allah with half my head. I do not understand what you said.
Hearing this, Habib ibn Aqil said,
I can see that you worship Allah with 70 types of doubts. And I know that you speak the truth. And you cannot understand what the Imam says. For Allah has placed a seal of ignorance upon your heart.
Abu realized that he had committed a big sin by siding with Yazid. He went to the Imam and begged for forgiveness. He stood before Hussein, his eyes cast down, and asked him to accept him back.
جعلني الله فداك يا ابن رسول الله. أنا صاحبك الذي حبستك عن الرجوع وجاهدتك في الطريق وجعجعت بك في هذا المكان. والله الذي لا إله إلا هو ما ظننت أن القوم يردون عليك ما عرضوا عليهم أبدا. والله لو ظننتهم لا يقبلونها منك ما ركبتها منهم. وإني قد جئتك تائبا مما كان مني إلى الله واسيا لك بنفسي حتى أموت بين يديك. فهل تراني؟
And then he turned to the army of Yazid.
يا أهل الكوفة أمكم الأمل والحرام. أنعمتم هذا العبد الصالح حتى إذا أتاكم أسلمتموه وزعمتم أنكم قاتلوا أنفسكم دونه ثم علوتم عليه لتقتلوه. أمسكتم بنفسه وأخذتم بكلكله وأحطتم به من كل جانب لتمنعوه التوجه إلى لله العظيم. ذلك الذي في أيديكم لا يملك لنفسه نفعا ولا يدفع عنها قضا. وعبده ونساءه وزوجته
therefore declared that all should witness that he was casting the first arrow in battle. He shot one towards the Imam. This was the beginning of the battle. The Imam had only 32 horsemen and about 72 soldiers in all. He ordered some of his men to dig ditches by the hills and fill it with firewood and light it in order to protect their mark. Meanwhile, the rest fought man to man with the enemy. After a few single moments, there was a general attack in the mid-morning. Although the enemy was repulsed, most of the army of Imam was killed. By now it was time for the Sultan. The truce was allowed to both sides.
ليصلوا. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
But Ibn Sa'd ordered his men to attack during this truce. They fired, from a distance, a cloud of arrows that killed Hussein's guards. The men of the family of Hussein then decided to attack. It was the turn of the family of the Holy Prophet, the Banu Hashim, to sacrifice themselves. Ali Akbar was the first to go. And whether they would come, no other men. He held Hussein's stand.
Imam Hussein bid the ladies and children farewell and entered the battlefield. He gave his last speech, once more urging the enemy to consider their actions.
مثلي لا يدين بالطاعة والولاء لرجل مثل يزيد إذا كان الدين لا يستقيم إلا بقتلي. أيا سيوف خذيني.
They wanted to fight. The Imam nightingale with many soldiers, killing them all. Thereupon, Imam himself ordered his men to attack the Imam all at the same time.
Imam Hussein fought bravely, scattering them wherever he turned. The enemy covered his back.
But finally, Imam won. He was facing from loss of blood. He slid off his horse and lay home. The enemy found him with his head on the ground. The remorseless shepherd saw his opportunity and hit the grandson of Muhammad with 12 strokes of his sword. He beheaded the Imam. After the martyrdom of the Holy Imam, a gloomy silence hung over the battlefield of Karbala.
Every now and then, the silence would be broken by the sound of drums, beating to celebrate victory.
Not satisfied enough with spilling the blood of Imam Hussein and his companions, Ibn Sa'd ordered for the horses to run over the body of the dead Imam. Although some people from his army objected to this gross disrespect to the dead, he managed to enforce this horrible action. He trampled over the bodies next turned their attention to the defenseless camp of Imam Hussein. Yazid soldiers marched into the camp, where they subjected the grief-stricken ladies to further torment and indignity. They had expected to find luxurious articles in the tents of the family of the Holy Prophet, but all they found were simple items and clothes. The ruthless soldiers snatched away these few possessions of sentimental value. They were angry at the lack of booty, and they took the veils off the struggling ladies, forcing us to expose our hair and faces. This humiliation was too much to bear. Unsatisfied with this, the enemy set fire to the tents. Realized that I would have to take care of the small group of women and children myself. I have to carry on my brother's calling. We were taken hostage and made to war. Orders came from Yazid to admit us into the court. As we entered, we saw that Yazid sat on an elevated gold throne, while his courtiers and foreign envoys sat on gilded chairs around him. Yazid was already quite drunk.
أشياخي بقدر شهد جزعت خزرت بالوقع الأثر لأهلوا واستهلوا ثم قالوا يا يزيد لا تشر قد قتلنا كثيرا من ساداتهم وعدناه ببدر واعتدل لست من خندق إن لم أنتقم ببني أحمد ما كان بعد لعبت هاشم بالملك بلى خبر جاء أنا وحي النزل
Yazid!
elated with our defeat. For you will have to pay the penalty for it. On the day when you will be rewarded for your misdeeds. God is not unjust to anyone. We trust in Him. He is our place of refuge. In Him we seek sanctity, and with Him rest our hopes. You can never reach the level of our lofty position, nor can you destroy our memories, nor can you wipe out the ignominy you have earned for yourself. Your decisions are poor.
Your days are numbered.
Slain in defense of Islam lay the band of Hussein. As on the afternoon of Ashura, Islam shall live with the blood of Hussein. Never shall it die, as long as lives the name of Imam Hussein.
Thank you.